Welcome to the Recommended Daily Value Podcast, your daily dose into the health and wellness world.
Welcome back to the Recommended Daily Value Podcast, where we dive into everything health, fitness, and nutrition related 5 days a week in 5 minutes or less. This podcast is brought to you by Umzu, and I'm your host, Tyler Woodward. If you're not ready, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button, because today's topic of the day is you are what you eat. This saying is often taken for granted, but it holds a lot more truth than we often believe. So in this episode, I'm going to give you a few examples. Number 1, the fat you hold is the fat you eat, mostly. So fat can be synthesized from sugar and theoretically, probably unlikely though, protein, which results in the synthesis of palmitic acid, which is a type of saturated fat. Palmitic acid can be converted into palmito-oleic acid, a type of monounsaturated fat, but most of your fat stores are dependent on the type of fat you eat. If you eat a diet of highly unsaturated fats like fatty fish, vegetable oils, or seed oils, your fat stores will predominantly be unsaturated, which, as we know and have discussed previously, is likely the cause of many health issues and can even influence how easily you sunburn. Whereas, if you eat a diet composed of mostly saturated fats like ghee, butter, tallow, coconut oil, etc., your fat stores will be mostly saturated. And the same thing applies for monounsaturated fats like olive and avocado oil. Olive oil also brings up another great point, as it's rich in vitamin E, which is considered a structural antioxidant. Basically, if you're deficient in vitamin E, the structure of your cells will lack vitamin E compared to having adequate amounts of vitamin E. Literally, your cells will be different. And I'd like to extend this argument even further. I recently read a paper that discussed how increases in omega-3 consumption in cells, which increases the membrane flexibility, resulted in proportionally higher amounts of cholesterol and saturated fat also being placed into the cell membrane. The study mostly focused on animals and in vitro tissues, but I'd expect the same results to occur in humans, but we'll have to wait and see and find out. Another aspect is hormone levels. We know that saturated fats are required for the synthesis of all steroid hormones, and it's been shown that a diet lacking in saturated fat lowers testosterone levels. Unrelated to the type of fat you eat, the proportion of fat versus carbs that you consume largely determines whether you're a fat burner versus a sugar or carb burner. People that consume mostly fat, like those in the low carb or keto worlds, will mostly burn fat for fuel, whereas people that consume a very high carb diet will mostly burn sugar for fuel. And obviously, most people lie somewhere in the middle, where they burn some amounts of both sugar and fat simultaneously. And if we dive into a more micro level, we know that the consumption of adequate minerals is also extremely important to our overall health. For example, not consuming enough calcium may potentially lead to osteoporosis or the deformation of the bones and increased tartar in your teeth. Iron is another example, where if you lack iron, you won't be able to produce enough hemoglobin, which is responsible for transporting oxygen and carbon dioxide throughout the body, so you'll be lacking red blood cells. And last, but certainly not least, we've got to talk about the microbiome. In my opinion, based on the research I've read, it seems as though every food we do and do not eat has a small effect in shaping our microbiome. This is cumulative and is going to matter a lot over time. Eating adequate fiber, like my favorite carrot salad, seems to keep our gut from overflowing with bacteria, while excess can do the exact opposite. Consuming probiotic-rich foods like raw milk, kefir, sourdough, or sauerkraut may also play a role in the type of bacteria that reside in your colon. Additionally, many of the polyphenols like flavonoids, anthocyanins, basically phytonutrients or plant chemicals, seem to have a direct effect on the gut and may also play a role in shaping it. Well, that's it for this episode. So remember, you are what you eat. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit that subscribe button and to share it with a friend. And remember, these opinions are my own, based on my own research and experiences, and is not medical advice. Till next time, be good.